Youman, and on this episode we have two world-class track and field athletes who happen to be married. On one end we have Mr. Joey Scott, on the other we have Mrs. Tahesia Harrigan-Scott. What's up with y'all? How's everything?
Man, everything's good, man. Everything's blessed my way.
Cool. Tahesia, I know you're in the Virgin Islands right now. I know you're in the Virgin Islands, and there was a storm not long ago. So how's everybody bouncing back from that with the weather that's going on?
Actually, the other day, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty windy, but I'm in the mountains, so I'm in the hills. So it was a lot of rain, a lot of wind here. But when you go into like the town area, it was pretty still. So the storm the other day was not that bad.
Gotcha. I know talking with Joey, you was keeping me up to date on how that was going out there. And we've been trying to hook up and take care of this for a little while now, but you know, certain things got in our way, but we on it now. So Joey, man, I appreciate you taking the time out. Tahesia, I appreciate you taking the time out. We have two world-class track athletes on the podcast this time. Something new for me, because I'm not big in the track and field. I know a little bit about the sport. It's always been a family thing for me watching it on the Olympics. So we've always been into it, but I never really understood the sport. So maybe you guys will help me out and educate me on the sport of track and field, as well as let me know what you guys are doing right now. So Tahesia, I know born in the Virgin Islands. How long did you stay in the Virgin Islands before you came over to the States?
Actually, I moved to Florida at the age of 12. So I've been back and forth ever since. It's 12 years old. Okay,
so when did you start your career or that journey in track and field? Was it before you came to the States, or was it when you actually got here?
Actually, I've always been a runner. I've always been a person who never wanted to walk. I would always try to run. So from a young age, it wasn't like where you go to the States and you have kids that are younger and it's more structured. For me, it was just fun, or beating the boys or doing something, or beating the older kids. So I've always been dominant in terms of as a younger kid. And then when I moved to Florida, it became a little bit more structured, but still like fun and games, because I was involved in so many other things also.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's probably how we all started in sports, just doing it for the love of it, going out there the old school way and just going, hey, I'm going to race everybody in my neighborhood or what have you, and go from there. And then it turns into something more organized. Exactly. So, Joey, man, tell me about your start, being from Stop 6, Funky Town, Fort Worth, Texas.
Amen on that. But you know what? When I was younger, the only thing that got me really seriously in the track is because my dad was an AAU and USA coach. So he never forced us really to do sports, but he did. I'm gonna be honest with you. I used to hate him going out there and coaching kids, and I'd be at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just one day I was like, you know what, man, I'm tired of him coaching kids that I go to school with. They probably think they better than me because they getting some good coaching from my dad. So that's when I went on to the track, and it kept me out of a lot of trouble. Of course, where I'm from, trouble is just right around the corner. Sometimes on your same street. So it was something that kept me and my brothers out of trouble. Most of the time. I'm not saying that we never got in trouble, but at the end of the day, that gave us an outlet, to kind of take our minds off of what's going on around us and put us in a whole different mind frame of constructors.
For sure, man. I'm from Louisiana originally, but I'm in the DFW area now, so I know a little bit about Fort Worth, Stop 6, the actual neighborhood or area that you're from, all too well. But, You say that you got involved with track and field. Were there any other sports, Joey, that you did growing up?
Oh yeah, most definitely. You know, let me give you my story on basketball. Man, you know, that could have been my, you know, y'all would have been reading about me in the paper. Nah, I'm lying. I suck, brother. Matter of fact, when I decided to cross over and play basketball, I got kicked off the team, and it wasn't by the coach. It was by my dad, because he said, "Son, if you go out there and embarrass this family name again." So you know, in basketball, I didn't know at that time that, you know, when the quarter's over, they switch goals.
Yeah.
I still thought that was my goal.
Just shooting on the same.
Yeah, so you should have seen me. It was like a dream. It was like slow motion. I think I even did this. but you know, I thought the crowd was yelling, "Joe, go, Joe, go, Joe!" And my dad saying, "No."
So that career ended quickly, huh?
It ended fast, man. I was actually on my way to the gym to go to practice, and I was walking out the house with my basketball stuff, and my dad asked me, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to practice." He said, "Oh, yeah, you're going to practice. You hand in that stuff immediately."
And make it back to the crib, huh? That's
man,
crazy.
Yeah.
But at least you gave it a try, and it was probably another way for you to get out of trouble. On the other hand, Tahesia, with you, you know, you said you was always a runner, and you competed for the love of it and just to have fun. Did you partake in any other sports, you know, while living in the Virgin Islands, or even when you came to the States, or it was just straight track and field?
In the Virgin Islands, it was only track, but when I went to Florida, I flag football, volleyball, soccer, any sport that you can think of, I played. The only one that I really didn't do was softball. But I was just a natural athlete. Like I just loved being involved in like some type of physical activity. So it was always fun and games for me.
I understand. So being that you played multiple sports, whether it was just for fun or you played it from an organized standpoint, how much do you think that helped in your development with track and field, if any at all?
No, I think it does, because I feel like a lot of times we have kids that's just so one-dimensional, and there's so many things that you can develop by, like, we don't do lateral motion, we don't do certain things in track and field. So to actually have like a well-rounded, balanced or developmental standpoint, I feel like playing other sports gets you that. And then I feel like for me, even though I was more into track and field, the other avenues allowed me to kind of relax and unwind and like, okay, let me take a break versus just focusing on just one thing and just making it so much of a task versus something of something that's fun. So it's like, okay, you play volleyball or you play flag football. It's like there's always some type of back and forth with, okay, I'm gonna get you in this one, but it's never to the point where you're so stuck on this one sport where it stresses you out so much, because you're allowed to develop certain muscles. You're allowed to develop certain factors that you don't develop when you're in track and field. And I feel like that's very important.
Definitely makes sense. I mean, we're living in that world right now. A lot of kids specializing in one sport. You know, we all around the same age, so we played multiple sports and did a lot of things that we don't see kids doing now. So for you to say that it helped with that development based on what you were doing, and also forced you to think and just be versatile in a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. And then for kids now, they don't like to go outside. So it's like you do track or you do one sport and it's like you're inside watching TV. Versus when we were younger, we going outside playing, climbing trees, doing whatever, and we're being active. So even if we didn't get that skill playing another sport, we were getting it outside playing some dodgeball or something. Like we're just doing stuff. So now you have kids who specialize in this one sport and then they're just at home like, okay, that's it. Let me just watch TV.
Yeah, all the video games on social media. So it's crazy. It's definitely a different world nowadays, man. And which leads me to this, Joey. You gave up the hoop dream at an early age. You kind of put that in a vault and focused on track and field. Tell me when did you know you had a shot at perhaps competing at the college level, and then from college competing possibly at the professional level? When did you know you had a shot to do some special stuff on the track?
Honestly, you know, I was always confident, you know, even when I sucked.
You
know,
have to be as a track athlete.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I was so confident. I played football too, actually. My first scholarship offer was for football from Texas.
Okay.
But, you know, track was just always my love. That was my passion, you know. But when I really started knowing that it could change my life from you know, doing the things that I was doing, is actually my junior year in high school, you know. And that's when I was at the district meet, and I looked up in the stands, and actually, you know, it was everybody like just rooting for me. You know, in Texas, you know, you competing again. You know, you compete in front of crowds from middle school, high school. So when you go to the college level, those crowds don't do anything for you because you're so used to competing in front of hundreds and thousands of people, especially in a place like Texas. So when I looked up in the stands, man, and I seen, you know, everyone, you know, just rooting for me. You know, you got Bloods rooting for me. You got Crips rooting for me. You got, you know, everybody's rooting for me at that present time. And that's when mentally I was like, wow, I could really not only change, you know, my life doing this, I can change other people's life doing this because they're rooting for me. So they see something in me that I couldn't even see in myself. So the next person can see that and say, dang, you know what? You know, I can do it too. That's when I actually got serious about it, my junior year in high school.
Yeah.
Because I realized that people seeing me as a motivation. You understand? Coming from where we from, you know, people seeing that as, dang, Joey doing this. Everybody's screaming his name. At that time, nobody was banging. At that time, nobody was fighting. At that time, nobody was holding grudges. Nobody was shooting. Everybody was out there for one reason, and that was to see me prevail and win. You know what I mean?
That's crazy, man, bringing the community together. And you probably wasn't even thinking about it that way till you actually looked up in the stands. And it probably has been going on for some time now.
Most definitely. No, you're absolutely right. Then when I looked up in the stands, I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? That's when I knew I was going to be more than the sport of track and field. So,
got you.
My legacy.
Yeah. So tell me this now. You know, you said your junior year you started to see that you had that real opportunity because of the support you were getting, and obviously you were doing well.
Right.
Was it easy to give up the football because you had offers to play college football? We know Texas is a football state, first, second, and probably third when you look at sports. But you got that opportunity to play at one of the flagship universities in the state, Texas A&M. Right. You turned that down to focus on track and field. Was that tough?
It wasn't. Actually, I could tell you, I know clear as day when I quit. I know clear as day. I still remember. It was actually a game. I forgot who was playing, but sometime we was playing Grand Prairie or something. We was playing somebody. But during halftime, man. And it wasn't the fact that we had a winning team. You know what I mean? We had great athletes on the team, but at the end of the day, it was so easy because I knew my heart wasn't in. You know, when your heart ain't in something, it's so easy to, you know. And my heart was, it just hit me that particular day at halftime, you know. And I was just like, I love track, you know. I love the individuality of it. It wasn't. I didn't have to depend on this other wide receiver dropping the ball or catching the ball. I didn't have to depend on the quarterback. My quarterback at that time was Vernon Wells, actually.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember you saying.
Yeah, I didn't have to depend on if Vernon was going to hit the target. I didn't have to depend on if the running back was going to see his hole and cut. I didn't have to depend on if our defense was going to hold down, the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have to depend on none of that in track and field. And I was always not a follower. I was always, a leader. I was always an individual, and I loved my individual fame. So when the lights are on, I don't have to depend on nobody. I want to know that my hard work, is not in vain, and I'm in control of my destiny at that particular time. When that gun go off, it's just me, my lane, and I was a hurdler and my 10 hurdles. You know what I'm saying? I when the gun go off, I didn't have to say, all right, Shane, you ready? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
So it was something. It was kind of like I know, it was kind of like a selfish thing, if that makes sense. I wanted the fame for me. I wanted to know that I just love when I crossed the finish line. It wasn't because, and I'm a team player, but it's just making more special crossing the finish line, knowing that it's you that crossed the finish line and won. You understand what I'm saying?
For sure.
There's been times I sit on the bench, and don't even get sit on the bench and don't even get in the game, and we win, and I just can't celebrate the same way because what did I do, to contribute to that win? Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? But in track and field, that gun go off, you cross that finish line, you can celebrate all you want to when you win. Because
of course.
You know what I mean?
I definitely get that. And I'm a flip the script and turn it over to our queen that's joining us today. Talk about how track and field took the lead for you. I kind of have an idea as to how, because that's something you've always done, but you did play other sports. How did track and field take the lead for you and made that your number one focus growing up?
Well, track and field for me, it's like I said, it's always been my number one love. Like, it wasn't no comparison of whether or not another sport took away from that, because couldn't do professional flag football. It's not going to happen. Volleyball, I was kind of short. I am kind of short. So it's like, it was just for the fun of it. So I wasn't really dominant in those sports. It's just that I was okay. So track and field for me, it's like you go out to a track meet and effortlessly you're winning. Like, it was where I don't care if I was running as a senior or whoever, I'm winning. So for my middle school years as track and field, I was always dominant. When I went to high school, I was always dominant except my freshman year. So there was this girl called Shantae Pelham. She was a senior. And throughout my whole diagon freshman year, she would always whip my ass. Like, always whip my ass no matter what. Like, once she's in the meet, she was winning. But it was like, okay, I'm going to try to get her, but never could get her. So it's like, after that, it was like, I was constantly dominant, even for state. Like, I won the long jump, triple jump, 100, 200. I was on the 4x1, 4x4. So they was like stacking me up. Like, I don't know where that new rule came in, but it should have been when I was there. They were just stacking me up in every single event you could think of, because I was explosive. I was fast. Like, I had basically a complete package for my size. So it was like, okay, you have your freshman year, I'm state champion and all these things, and your sophomore year doing the same thing. And track and field for me was not like, it wasn't an escape for me for like other people, because I didn't have that, I was never distracted, or I never had that, I guess, for boys versus females. In my sense, I was always that person where I had my head on my shoulder. I was into the guys, but I wasn't. You had to come right. So you couldn't be a guy where you just messing off and then try to come and approach me, because that wasn't me. Like, you had to come correct. So guys was never a distraction or a loss of focus for me for track and field. And I don't know, it was just something that I never really planned as a kid. I always thought to myself, I'm going to go to the Olympics. How I was going to get there, I had no clue.
I don't know.
Like, honestly, I had no clue how I was going to get there, because for me, like, my success in middle school was good. My success in college was good. And everything just almost like overflowed on each other. So when I was that dominant in high school, it's like, okay, well, you're going to go to school on a scholarship to run track. So I was the style of my class. So I had the opportunity to say, you know what, you can do track and field and get an athletic scholarship, or you can go the academic route. But for me, I was like, well, nah, if I take this academic scholarship and want to run track, I'll be binded by the idea that, okay, well, you have to maintain a certain GPA. And it wasn't an idea that I couldn't do that, but it was like, why put that much stress on my shoulder when I don't have to? So I took that athletic scholarship and was able to manipulate the system that way. And then after college, it was like, oh, wait, you can run pro. So it's just like things were just falling into place just because of how I was dedicated to it, how much I trained. I trained hard. I wanted to win, and I went out there and won. So even though my times, like if I went into a school in Texas, they would say I suck coming out of high school, honestly, because my times weren't that great. Like I ran 11.8 in high school, my fastest, and that was my senior year, my last track meet. So I was consistent 12 low, and then I ran like a 11.8. But you had other girls was running 11.3, and I'm like, dang, they rolling. Like, what the heck? But it never made me feel like I couldn't get there. Like I felt like if you were lining up next to me, I don't care what time you ran, you're just gonna have to beat me that day. Cause I was always like a bullet out of the blocks. So if you don't get me out the blocks and you panic not knowing who I am, then a lot of people, even though they were talented, they would falter off, especially in my younger portion of my career where they're not really paying attention, that they would completely change their game plan because I got out so hard on them and I was in front. So, but that was just like my bread and butter. Yeah. But like, I don't know, track and field was just that thing that it allowed me to see the world. It just played its part, and all my cards just basically stacked up perfectly. It was like divine fate. Like it wasn't no like headache to do anything. Everything just came into play. Like it just worked out.
I definitely get that. The fact that you did it for love. You wasn't focused on those accolades and all of those things that came along with winning or having that success like some people do. They're always looking at the scoreboard for times or, you know, who I'm running against and who's ranked here, who's ranked there. I definitely get that part. Both of you guys had the motivation. Joy, you had the motivation of the hood and the people that you saw in the stands cheering for you. Tahesia, you had the motivation from the girl that continually beat you. Your freshman year, the girl you couldn't seem to get the edge on, she motivated you to push yourself and to go out there and continue to get better, even though you said your times weren't all that great. The fact that you were aggressive and had that competitive nature, that helped carry you over the hump, using advantage. Mm-hmm. And if people fell into your advantage and didn't stay disciplined in what they needed to do, then you always came out on top. You know, the focus that you saw you had, Joey, you know, what you would see and the opportunity that you may have had down the line, but that outweighed what you saw at home or what you might have seen on the streets. And it's like, you know what? I know exactly what not to do. So I'm going to focus on things I can do. So this leads me to this, y'all. Tahesia, you went from sunny Florida to Minnesota. Like, how did that happen?
Okay, so believe it or not, even though I was a book freak, so I wanted to be a doctor. So I never chose my school based on track and field. Like I chose my school based on the academic aspect of it. So that's a great
point.
I had LSU coming after me. I had Florida. I had all those schools coming after me, but they didn't have my program. They didn't have what I really wanted to do. So it's like, I'm not like, because at the end of the day, track and field is a dream, it's a goal, it's something, but it's like you have to have something else after the fact. And at that point, I always thought of the academic aspect of it versus the athletic aspect of it. And then I don't know if that's why it worked out so well, because I always had something else in the foreground. Like, okay, let me think of this. Like, I'm trying to get my grades together. I'm trying to make sure that all my schoolwork, but then you have people who it's the complete opposite, where they focus so much on the athletic aspect and they let the grades go. And it can't, like, I feel like the grades go together, then the athletic part comes easy.
For sure. I definitely can agree. And that's a mature decision from a teenager at your age, 17, 18 years old, deciding that the school that fits best for me is going to fit me from an academic standpoint. We know you have a track and field program, but what does that curriculum look like? And do I fit into that? Because that makes it that much easier for you to kind of leave a school that might have had 1,000 kids or 1,000 students. Now you with 20,000, 30,000 students at a huge university trying to find your way. So I definitely understand it from that standpoint, but I don't know if I could leave sunny, warm, good weather and go to Minnesota. I don't know. I just don't know if I could do that. But
listen. Minnesota's facility is amazing. Like nowhere that I went, the athletes were good, but they were more of a cross-country program. But like Joey said, it was always about him. Like when you step on the track, it's you. So I don't care if my teammates run slow. That ain't got nothing to do with me because not because you're going to run slow, that means I'm going to run slow. So it was like that individual aspect, like, okay, but their facility, when you see a school and they got a soccer arena, they got basketball, they got football, they got track, every sport has their own facility and you're not sharing with nobody. Like, it's like school is amazing. The school is amazing.
That's
like, the campus was amazing.
I got you. I'm just thinking about the weather, but you saw the whole picture, and I can't be mad at you for that.
In Minnesota, they had tunnels. They have underground tunnels, and they had an indoor track. So I wasn't outside. Like, so it's not like I had to train outside in the cold when I don't have to. Like, we had an indoor facility.
Got you.
So the only thing is with that indoor facility, when you get to outdoor meets and you realize that your 100-meter ain't 60, like, oh shoot.
Yeah, you gotta change
but
it
that's
up.
The only thing, like.
For sure.
That may have been where my problem started. That might have been where my last part of my race got affected as a professional, though.
Yeah, you have to go outside, and that's a different ball game. So I definitely get that though. So just taking everything in and making a decision based on the whole body of work and not just one particular thing, which was the track and field program. Now, Joey, you went to a JUCO powerhouse for track and field, Barton Community College out in Kansas. You know, I know a few guys that went there. You talk about Derek Brew, you talk about Walter Davis. Both of those guys came to LSU and were big time track and field athletes. So what I guess, how did you make that decision to take your talents there as opposed to straight to a 4-year school right off the bat?
Oh man, well, I signed with. I knew I didn't want to start with a major university first, even though I was getting offers. I knew that. I mean, that scared me because you're looking at a person that was never out of Fort Worth. Like, think about, I didn't go to Dallas until after college.
Damn.
Like, real talk, I never went to Dallas until after college. So that should tell you how much in the box, you know, my surroundings was, you know, and you already know, I mean, you down there. So I was so much in the box that I knew that I didn't want to go to a major university, a big school, because I was shell shocked, if that makes sense, right? And so Abilene Christian came after me, and at that time they was the number. They were D2, but they was also ranked in the top 10 for track and field out of D1s, JUCOs, and D2. They was good, right? So I chose them. And then the last minute, man, I started having, just home withdrawals. Like, you know what? I signed this scholarship. I'm telling you, we did a whole thing. New paper came out. Star Telegram came out. Like, everybody came out on my signing day. They was just trying to figure out who I was going to sign with, and I signed with Abilene Christian, right? But last minute jitters, I said, man, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college. I want to stay. I feel like I can make more money, in the streets. I feel like I can make more money at home than in school, and my mind was just on making money, quick money. So a coach named Coach Kitley, I thank him to this day. Every time I see him, I give him a hug, because he don't even realize what he meant to me at that particular time. Because he knew about me, he knew my personality, and he called me and said, I know what you're feeling. Listen, I want you. How about there's gonna be a guy call you in a couple of weeks by the name of Coach Cole or Coach Brahman. He's from a school called Barton County. It's in Kansas. Hear him out, right? Hear him out. And then if you go there, if you choose to go there, I'm still here for you, and I honor your full scholarship here, right? So I hung up the phone with him. At that particular time, being 16, 17, or whatever, like, whatever. You know what I mean? So a couple of weeks went by, and the guy called me. The guy called me, and I was drawn to his realness. And the first thing he said was, you come to Barton County, it's nothing to do. You will feel like you're in prison. The closest Walmart, which is our mall, is 30 minutes away. It's nowhere. You're gonna be 10 hours from home. You ain't gonna have no call your parents. He just kept it real. But he promised me one thing. He said, but I promise you, if you come here, you'll be able to go to any college, any university in the country that you want to, if you come here. So once again, I was like, hey, you just talking. You know what I mean? So I hung on with him. I did think about it. A couple of JUCOs at the time: Garden City, Barton County, Meridian. So it was a couple of them that I was thinking about. But for some reason, I was drawn to Barton for the simple fact of that conversation that I had with him, right? Yeah. Because we only dream of things like that as a kid, especially where I'm from. You know what I mean? You only dream of getting out. But 9 times out of 10, it always pull you back in. So. Sure. He popped up, man. He came and picked me up in some ugly van. All my clothes on my back and my clothes in my suitcase. No sheets, no blanket, no care package, no nothing. I got on there with my clothes and I hope, you know what I mean? And we drove 10 hours in the middle of nowhere.
Tell me about it. I've been to Kansas a few times. Tell me about it.
I literally thought that my parents sent me off to to a juvenile detention center in the middle of nowhere on a slide. Like, I thought they sent me somewhere I was like, this looked like a prison. The school sits on the hill. You really don't have no dorms. Now they have dorms, but back when I went, they had little trailer homes, and all of them was sectioned off. One room right here, a bathroom, another room. They look like trailer homes, right? So in the middle of nowhere, man, just fields as far as the eye can see. So, that experience, man. I mean, just that first night, people was leaving. People was going to the Greyhound station and catching a ride back. And that's where I met Derek Brew, of course. He had already been there for a year. Yeah. Right. And he was like, man, this is going to be something, this is going to be special. He wasn't lying to you. It's nothing to do, but you're going to be able to go anywhere you want to. So the first day of practice, that was the scariest practice of my whole career. It was the scariest practice of my life. The reason why, because that was the first time that I was real confident and cocky. And everybody was the same
like that.
Confident and cocky.
Everybody was like that, huh?
Yeah, everybody was like that. People were saying, hey, who on a relay? You ain't on it no more because I'm here. You know what I mean? It was crazy. It was like a track meet. It was like a competition.
Every day.
Every single day you had to grind. And Coach Brahman, he was like, look, I got 47 seats on the bus. I'm only taking 37 of y'all to the competition. Who coming? Ooh. You know what I mean? So
better have it on your mind.
Man, you had to come with it. You had to come with it, man. And it was truly the best decision that I ever made in my entire life. And to rewind, right? I remember in middle school, I went to Texas Relays. And I seen a school, University of Oklahoma, and they won the 4x4, right? And I looked at my dad. I never forget. I looked at my dad and said, "Man, I want to go there," not knowing anything about what I was saying. I just knew I wanted to go to a winning school. I wanted to win a relay, right? Went to Barton County. Of course, we were supposed to go to LSU or Florida, or we had every school after the coach wasn't lying. I had a lot of. I verbal committed to North Carolina. But, I was analyzing everything, my pros and cons, and I chose University of Oklahoma to be my home after JUCO. And that's how I got into the D1 system. In the school that I told my dad in middle school in the 8th grade, I want to go there. And I didn't even realize it until I was on Oklahoma campus. And I seen that uniform. Right? I was like, hold on. This is the same school that I said I wanted to go to in middle school. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was a dream come true. And till this day, it saved my life, because if it wasn't for him just putting that little bug in my ear that JUCO ain't that bad, and just hear him out, then I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you, And I hug him every time I see him. He's actually the head coach of Texas Tech now.
Oh, nice. That's crazy, man, for somebody like that back then. And we all have our stories where there's a person that took a certain interest in us, not because we were good in a particular sport. That helped, yes. But at the same time, they may have saw something a little bit deeper in us that we didn't realize ourselves. And you know what, man, let me help this kid with a little extra motivation to really, really, really focus on some things that he could possibly do. Not only get yourself out of a tough situation, but set yourself up for a good future. It wasn't just about track and field with him or sports with the coach that kind of put his arm around your shoulder and was like, hey, man, I still want you, but in case you're not ready to come here now, this is an option for you. So like you said, you hug him every time you see him. That's somebody you're going to forever know because they help you realize that you had an opportunity to do something special that you didn't see at the time. So with that being said, you told me about your rude awakening into college, into the collegiate level, even though it was at JUCO, that everybody out there was a dog.
Yeah.
So you had to come with it. Tahesia, what was your rude awakening when you got to Minnesota besides the weather? What was something that woke you up and said, okay, I got to strap things up and really focus on doing what I need to do?
Honestly, in Minnesota, for me, like I said, we were in Big Ten. It wasn't that dominating at that point. So my first year in Minnesota, I was still that person because they recruited me. So I was the fastest person on the team. Yeah. So I didn't have a team like that said, okay, well, I have to worry about this person, that person. I was always the fastest person. Now, if you wanted me to run a mile, I'm in trouble. Like, so like everybody like on the team, slow or not, they could beat me in the longer runs, but it was like, I just couldn't get it. But when it comes to the shorter stuff, like that was my bread and butter. The only problem that I had was I would be good for the whole season until it was time for Big Ten championships. Prelims, I'll go out there fine. And as soon as I get to that final, I don't know what was going on. Like, it's like, okay, it's either somebody would beat me out, or I would never get that Big Ten championships, even though I came in that dominant person. So that was one of the things that always got on my nerves. But other than that, it was like, okay, it was still celebrated to a certain extent because they never had that many people in the finals or around the certain time. So like for my freshman year, no, was that my freshman year? My freshman year, I went to nationals and nobody's looking at me. So it was like, for me, I always found peace in the fact that I didn't know who everybody else was. So it's like when I started focusing on who my competitors were mentally, because I never really did it throughout the season, it would have this negative effect on me during the championship versus just going out there saying, forget it. And whatever you get, you get. Because at the end of the day, everybody looking at Minnesota is like, who's Minnesota? Minnesota ain't got no sprinters. They're known for their distance runners or the 400 runners that we had. So when I went out there and actually got second at nationals in the 60, people were like, whoa, hey, hold up. Minnesota got this person. So for me, I always mostly had an internal battle with myself because when the pressure wasn't on for me, it was like, okay, just run. But then I somehow added pressure for myself when I never needed to in certain races that always kind of pissed me off. But so for me, I never, like I said, my ducks always kind of lined up for me. So it wasn't like, okay, I had to worry about the team that I was on. I wish I did, because I felt like if I did have those people on my team, then dealing with that pressure when it gets tough made it easier. But I don't know if that, because I was always that faster person, when I had somebody on the side of me or I had to worry about somebody else that I typically, like I had, what's her name? Rachelle Boone. She was at Illinois. Okay. And she was always one of them where she won't really run that fast throughout the season, but when it came to, or she would be consistent around the same time, but she always pulled one out there during finals. But she had a training partner called Danielle Curtis, she was mostly known as a hurdler, but she also could sprint. So I feel like that practice tenacity always kind of beat me out at the major championships, where I never really had that on my squad. And I feel like throughout every program that I went to, I felt like that was always my issue, where I was one, like they would put me on a 400 when I went to Alabama, because I transferred from Minnesota to Alabama afterwards.
I was going to ask you that about Alabama and all of that stuff too. So
that was actually that was like my first track move that I've actually made in college, because I decided, like, okay, you know what? Let me follow him to Alabama, because even though, like I said, I wasn't that fast of a runner in high school, I was still good, and I still had that competition tenacity, or that dominating or aggressive spirit in terms of competing. And he saw, you know what? She might not be running fast in terms of time on the paper, but she's powerful and her technique is basically jacked up. So if I correct this, correct that, then she's going to roll. And just so happens, I went from 11.8, and then that season I went down to 11.3. So it was like just technical things that he worked on that allowed me to kind of mature in that sport. But when I went to Alabama now, they were some killers down there. So it wasn't
SEC.
like, okay, the SEC wasn't no joke at that point. So in Minnesota, you could go to a meet in Wisconsin, you can go to a meet in Iowa. And even though it had fast people, it was almost like, okay, well, you're not getting this on a consistent basis. So I won Drake relays every single time that I went, but I would have, like, you would have the professional athletes. And I remember one time we had Debbie Ferguson or we had Allison Felix where they were in my race. But in my head, I was so into my own zone that I never really focused on them, because it was like, well, you're going to have to beat me today. But it was like, okay, I can run. But then when it became where now, okay, wait, this counts for something. I don't know. It was always that thing for me. But for SECs, I wasn't no punk, because I was always like within the finals, or I would get top 4 and certain, like, when for regionals and things like that. But it was always where you had these other killers. You had Kellyanne Baptiste, that they were just rolling like all the time. So it kind of gave me that little edge where, you know what, you have to focus on something else, or you have to start focusing on your competitors at that point versus just running, for me. So I think in the SEC, it gave me that little edge of saying, you know what? Okay, you moved to Alabama. You're from the Virgin Islands, and I have a very legitimate chance of making it to the Olympics, because, for one, I've been traveling on national teams for a very long time. For two, I don't have to worry about national championships to be selected, because all I basically had to do was qualify for my event. So once I qualified for my event, it was automatic that I was going. So those stresses I never really had to worry about for me. So it's like that aspect of, okay, well, in order for you to be successful, now you have to say to yourself, okay, well, I have an issue with this portion of my race. I have to fix it, and I have to fix it while I'm running with them, so I can become better or be able to be at least competitive on that level.
It definitely makes sense, and I can definitely I guess attest to seeing SEC track and field. I went to LSU, so that's when I took a liking to track and field for certain reasons I'm not going to get into, but I already know what the reasons are. But I started to pay attention to the sport a little bit, so I definitely get what you mean by that, and just having people push you to that extent, similar to how you were, Joey, at Barton. So you go to Barton for those 2 years, you get your associates, and then on to Oklahoma. Spend 2 years there, you end up getting your bachelor's degree. Okay. But in the midst of that, you become a world-class athlete, right? You're able to become a professional and turn pro soon after graduating from Oklahoma. Was that something that you started to see once you got to Oklahoma? Did you see that prior to that? Hey, man, I'm probably going to become a professional at this, so let me go ahead and continue to put in that work and focus on it. When did you see yourself becoming a professional?
When I start understanding the sport, like every coach that coached me, they would have the same story on me, that I was never just an athlete. I was a student, and I always put my student qualities first before I even put my athletic qualities. Because for the simple fact, I wanted to understand everything that I was doing. I wanted to understand what the main goal was. And I always knew I wanted to be a professional athlete. You know, I always knew that I wanted to go to the Olympics. I always knew that I wanted to see the world, especially when I got to Oklahoma. I still didn't understand it at Barton that much. But when I started seeing like Derek Bruce, Walter Davis, and all those guys, at the time, you know, Walter was younger than me, but so I used to see it through Derek Brew, Claudine Williams, that went to LSU as well, Jamaican 800-meter runner. So it was a couple of people that I would look at and I see them on TV. You know, don't forget Derek Brew. You know, he was at the Olympics while he was at LSU.
Yeah,
you know, so I'm seeing my old teammates, you know, on the podium at the Olympic Games. So it was easy for me to come up with the picture of being on the podium as well. You know, I was a part of a hard country to make the team, you know, United States of America. But, you know, I knew what my main focus and my main goal was. You know, I wanted to, I love traveling the world. You know, track and field then showed me so many different countries. You know, think about it, man. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. You know, I'm in the Metroplex. I wasn't used to dealing with other cultures. I wasn't used to talking to different, you know, just different nationalities and, you know, just different people from different walks of life. I wasn't used to that. So track and field, even in college, I mean, don't forget, my first time on a plane was you know what I'm saying? Was in college.
Hey, bro, you're preaching to the choir. Everything you saying right now, I've been down that same road, bro. I know.
Man, I'm trying to be tough and nervous as well. I'm trying to be tough and nervous as hell. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and then to make it bad, my first plane had propellers on it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no, come on, man. so so it was, you know, track and field showed me a lot outside of the sport. You know what I mean? And it you know, I was able to conquer a whole lot of fear. So I always knew that my end goal was to be a professional athlete because I started seeing my compadres become that. So I knew, dang, you know, they becoming out. Why can't I? You know what I'm saying? We're part of the same system, you know? So I already knew leaving Oklahoma, I was going to devote, you know, my time trying to qualify for a team and being on the circuit, you know, and traveling the world and competing.
Definitely, man. I know that's a really, really a global sport. It is track and field when you talk about competition and things like that. When you become a pro, you're going to have to leave the country if you want to make a couple dollars in doing so. So we didn't all have the luxury like Tahesia to hop on a plane at 12 years old and travel. I mean? You know what I'm saying? We had to wait our turn and go to college before we could do that. So, but I definitely can relate to what you're saying about that, man. It's crazy how, you know, I'm sure initially going in, you were kind of stuck on your ways, didn't want to open up or do anything different than what you were used to seeing in that box that you mentioned, staying at home and not even really going from Fort Worth to Dallas. You hear that so much with kids now that they don't have those opportunities to really see much until they perhaps get an opportunity to do it to where it don't cost them any money to do so. But we're going to lead into that pro life from both of you because you both compete at a high level, both been into the Olympics multiple times, whether it be as a coach or an athlete. So Tahesia, you said your ducks have always been in a row and kind of just things have fell into place. You know, you went to Minnesota, froze your butt off. Then you went down to Alabama. You went down to Alabama and you had a coach to help you with your technique and combine that with your aggressiveness and the way you took care of business on the track. Spend that time in the SEC. Now it's time to become a pro. Did you get your degree before turning pro, or did you continue your education while you were competing as a professional?
When I was, let me see. I got to think back. Okay, so no. My collegiate career kind of got extended because I was pregnant in college. So my last year of college, I got pregnant and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop. I'm just going to have my baby and whatever happens, happens. Apparently, I didn't know that once you have a child in college, you don't take, they can't take that year from you. It's considered a hardship year because when I transferred Minnesota to Alabama, the coach didn't want to release me. So I had to sit out a year to actually go to Alabama. So I was like, okay, wow, I didn't even realize that was a thing. Cause like, it's like, okay, wait, I'm just transferring to another school. I'm not in your conference.
Coaches be holding grudges. Coaches be hating.
Yeah.
They be hating.
Like, I'm not affecting you in any way, but just so happens they didn't release me. And I was like, the worst thing I could have done, apparently, in my appeal was show that I could compete outside of college. So then apparently when I got pregnant, I only competed like one time. But in my head, I only had that 1 year left.
Yeah.
But when I was like, I had a semester and I was intending of paying for my tuition that following semester. And the coach was like, no, you got another year. I was like, no, I can't have another year. I went to Minnesota for 2 years. I redshirted for a year. Come on. I competed for 1 year at Alabama with the one track meet. And then now I was like, how am I getting 5 years? He's like, well, it's a hardship. So in that point, I just did my master's. So while I was doing that, I ended up getting a contract out of like at the end of that cycle. So the year that I came back from having my son, that was actually one of my better years in track and field. So I just had to kind of manage having my son going to school, doing my clinical fellowship for my program and getting my master's degree and going through that process. So it was like, okay, it kind of still worked out. Don't know how again, but it just worked out because of the type of person that I am. I wasn't a social being. And so it was like I always had a goal, and academic was always my goal. And track and field, it was like, okay, well, if they're going to give me this extra year, I'm going to try to do something with it. And just so happens that I did something with it. I had a Reebok who came in on the back end and was like, oh, well, we're trying to get you a scholarship. Like, oh, for real? Word? And like, okay. So it was like, I didn't even think about, like, I knew that I was going to run professional, but it was never run professional with a contract attached to it. It was run professional. I'm going to compete for my country. I'm going to go to the World Championships. I'm going to go CAC Games. I'm going to go to Commonwealth Games. I'm going to go to the Olympic Games. But it was never like, oh, you about to really be professional and have a contract behind it. So when Reebok came in, I was like, oh, okay, wait, hold up. Let me think about this real quick. Let me start doing something a little different. And it was like, okay, now I had revenue coming in that I didn't even think about. And it was like, okay, well, now I have this agent who is helping me get into meets overseas. I have my contract. I have my country support. And it was like, okay, I'm basically living a life. And then for me, with being from the Virgin Islands, that doesn't happen. Like, I was the first one of the first females to actually take sports seriously and actually make something out of it. Because growing up in the Virgin Islands, even though sports in general is like a thing in the US, when you get to a certain age, like as a youngster, running track and doing sports is cool. When you get a little bit in the teenager years going into college, you have people or you have guys like, oh, you looking muscular or you looking a certain physique. And people were actually using that against you where, oh, well, dang, you look muscle up. And I'm like, okay, so I'm getting paid to do this. So it's to the point where I literally have to tell people I'm getting paid to look like this or paid to travel the world. What you doing with yours? Like, so it was almost like a fight where you had to kind of prove yourself to the world or to your country that, okay, well, yes, I might have to, you think I should have this 9 to 5, but this is my 9 to 5 and my 9 to 5 is way easier than yours and I'm making way more money. And in my head, like I had to come at you like that because if I didn't, then they will find a way to kind of get under my skin and try to make it something less than what I was trying to do. So like, and seeing myself do it, there was an explosion with female athletics transitioning past the youth level. So even though I don't think I was as successful as I wanted to be in terms of getting an Olympic medal, like I really wanted an Olympic medal because I really think that I was that talented. But at times, sometimes your calling isn't that. So I did get the CAC goals 3 times, one of the top athletes to do that in the region. I've gotten the CAC championships twice. I've won a lot of regional stuff. I've won world indoors for the 60 meter, and that was like the first time for my country. Also, I've made it to finals in a lot of different events that was never even possible for my country. So it's like, I guess my biggest thing was a motivation for the other athletes who are now dominantly doing it on a frequent basis.
Of course.
So
and not thinking about that, you talked about wanting a medal in the Olympics and things of that nature, but you were being a trailblazer. You are a pioneer. You broke down barriers. And just like you said, you kind of, you were doing it for the next generation of athletes from the Virgin Islands coming up, female athletes especially. You mentioned people talking about your physique, how you look. My college coach called those type of folks dream busters. Those folks are trying to kill your dream by saying that you couldn't do it or you looked a certain way that's not attractive or whatever it may be that they may have said to you about what you were doing. You didn't allow that to distract you or deter you away from what it is that you wanted to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So you look at all of those things and you said, maybe I fell short not getting an Olympic medal or what have you, or doing certain things in your career, but you did way more than that. You did way more than that without even thinking about it. So I definitely got to commend you on that. You know, when it comes to that setting the stage and breaking those barriers and being a trailblazer. So I'm sure you realized it now, but at the time,
now you realize it now, but in the moment, you know, in a moment,
that's just being a competitor. That's just being a competitor. So I definitely get it. So, but you look back at it, you can smile and appreciate your career up until this point. You know, up until this point. So this brings me to this. You both are on the pro circuit now, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you're doing your thing, Tahesia, on the pro circuit from the female side of things, getting these medals, qualifying for the Olympics multiple times. Joey, you're on the pro circuit. You're getting opportunities. You know, you get some endorsement from Mercedes. You get some Adidas with Tahesia, with Reebok, and a few others probably. You're doing your thing, man, on the men's side of things. When did y'all meet? When did that happen? Like, when was it? You know, was it love at first sight? Was she playing hard to get? Was Joey playing hard to get? Bring me down to me.
Let me have the floor because this story is like.
I'm the only one that tell it like.
I want you to be to the point. I want you to be to the point, and then we got a rebuttal. Man. We got a rebuttal on the other side. So I want to hear.
All right, so I was already professional. She was still in school. She was at the University of Alabama at that time. What they used to do at Drake Relays in Iowa, you know, Drake Relays is probably the second or third largest meet. You have Penn Relays, Texas Relays, Drake Relays. Those are the three. And in California, you have Mount Sac Relays. Those are the 4 big. You can't forget about Prefontaine. Those are the 5 big major meets, you know, in the United States on USA soil, right? So. We got invited to Drake. I got invited to Drake Relays. So one morning, she's sitting there smiling because she knows. One morning, I came downstairs to eat breakfast. They used to put all the professional athletes in the same hotel as some of the big schools. You know, she went to Alabama. That's one of the big schools or whatever. So I went downstairs and going to eat in a restaurant. They used to let the pros eat at a certain time, and then the collegians can come in and eat or whatever, right? So I go downstairs and I see a young lady reading a book by the restaurant door, and I walk past her, and then I feel this on my shirt, like somebody pulling me.
Come on, man.
I'm thinking it's somebody like who put you like who put it? So I turn around.
Got caught in stuff?
And I say, can I help you? She said, you're Joey Scott. I said, yeah. She said,
wait, hold on now. Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Joey Scott, listen, you're not gonna change it.
Okay. Let me rewind. All right. So honestly,
I ain't pulling nothing.
Okay, honestly, I see her reading a book. You know, around that time I forgot the author name, but she used to have some great novels. So I said, oh man, I said, hey, how you doing? I said, that's that's one of the man-hating books. You know, at that time, you know, I believe the author used to write a lot of relationship stuff or whatever. I forgot what kind of novels she used to write, but I said, yeah, that's like a man-hating book, right? So she said no. So I go out in the restaurant. Am I right so far, babe?
Go ahead.
All right. So I go in the restaurant. That was the gist of that conversation. I go in the restaurant to eat. This is meet day. This is competition day, right? This is competition morning. So I go in the restaurant. Me and my best friend, we sit down at a table. We eat. We already knew her roommate. Her name was Bo Walker. Bo Walker is actually, I think, she's from Colorado. But anyway, she comes in and asks, hey, can me and my roommate sit with you guys to eat because all the tables was full?
Yeah.
Right? So, of course, I said, yeah, y'all come sit and eat. You know, everybody in their zone. So they came, sat at the table, and I feel some eyes on me, right? But it's not for the reason that I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's not for the reason I thought it was. You're gonna check this out. So I'm thinking that she just admired, like I'm eating, right? Now, you from Louisiana, you from the South, right? I'm from Texas, right?
No excuse.
What do we do with our syrup? We put syrup in a bowl, we put it on the table, we got our pancakes. I roll my pancake up and I dip it in the syrup. So that's why she looking at me, because she like, who is this country? Right? So I'm dipping in syrup. I eat syrup dripping off my fingers or whatever. But that's how we met, because we started so at the table, I was like, hey, what school you go to? Alabama or whatever. I said, oh, okay. Around this time, I'm still cocky and confident. I'm never getting paid. You know what I mean? So I said, all right. So we get to talking. I asked her, I said, so what's your major? She told me her major. I said, oh, I think I got the same major. She was like, no, we don't. I said, yes, I do. No, we don't. She was like, no. She said, I'm a psychologist. I said, okay, same thing. It's close. You know what I mean? So we ended the conversation there, right? So it's time for us to go to the track. I don't see her no more because, the pros, we got our different transportation compared to the colleges, right? So her event was right before my event. So I'm on the track actually about to set my blocks, and her event just went off. Her event, she just ran. So she came around she won. So she came around doing a victory lap. At Drake Relays, they give you a flag and you wave to the fans. You do your victory lap, wave to the fans. So she came around and I looked. I said, oh, that's old girl from the morning. Oh, she fast. Right? So she came around, she waved, but at this time, I'm still cocky and confident anyway. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, that's cute. She won, whatever. Right? So we get back to the hotel and they usually throw an athlete party. Okay? For all the athletes, it's an athlete party. They playing reggae, they playing everything. All the universities in there, everybody's having fun. The professional athletes, we in there acting cool, So I see her before I go off into the party, and I see her on the other side. It's kind of like a circle shape. Yeah. In the middle, it's nothing. You just look down and you can see the lobby. So I see her on the other side, and I tell her, I say, come here. Come here. Like, let's have some conversation.
Of course.
So I took my eyes off of her, and then. And when I turn back around, she's right here. I'm like, oh
my God.
She's fast. She's fast.
No, I'm not fast. This great story gets tricky. Where did I come in?
Anyway, so when I told her to come, she said no. I said, come here. She said, no, you come here. I said, oh, whoa. I'm a professional athlete. I'm like, hold on, whoa. Yeah. She just told me to go. So I said, meet halfway, right? Am I lying so far? Am I lying?
Yeah, no, you're not lying. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
So that's what we went. That's what we didn't know each other's names.
But we didn't meet halfway.
We met halfway, right?
No, we just didn't. No, we did.
Okay, would you say 60-40? Would you say 60-40?
would say more of 80-20.
You know, I'm gonna give it that.
And I'm saying 80 to be nice. The reason I'm saying that is because we met at the corner. I intentionally talked to my roommate so I don't walk and look like I was talking to her. So you can keep walking down, and then when I saw that you got close, I turned around and started walking to your direction.
It was a trash can over there, and I had some papers that I had to throw away. That's the only reason I talked about you.
On the corner. It was the corner.
Hey, so
when do you know the trash can was in the corner? This might have been the.
So we get to talking. It gets better. All right. So we get to talking. You know, just small conversation. I'm not thirsty. She not thirsty, and she give me all her numbers: cell phone number, home number.
Email, business phone, fax, all of that.
Business,
no. Okay, so which is the weirdest thing? I give out my house number because I'm never there. I did not give you my cell phone number initially. You got my cell phone number after the fact.
Anyway,
I always had my cell phone on me, but I never gave out my cell phone. Which is the craziest thing, because people are like, why you give out your house phone number? That was a school phone number, so it didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So it was like, I would rather give you the school number than give you my cell number.
So what he really want to know, and what the people want to know is how this connection happened. Okay, so we get to talking. The party's done. Everybody's just socializing. So me and her socialized, right? It was no, I wasn't coming at her as if I wanted her. She wasn't coming at me as if she wanted me. It was just casual conversation, and it was getting late. I believe it was like probably after 1 o'clock, after 2 o'clock or something like that in the night, right? Everybody's still, mingling.
Just talking.
And so she gets ready to go to her room. And she's walking. And I, in my mind, of course, I'm like, dang, she's pretty, and that was some good conversation, right? Anyway, so she gets to the elevator. The elevator is on the other side of the couch I was sitting on. So I can see the elevator as clear as I'm sitting here. The elevator's right in front of me. So I said it to myself, she's about to look back. Because I gave something to her.
Yeah.
Mentally that she hasn't had before, right? So sure enough, the elevator opened. And then she looks back at me. I said, go!
That's not what you said.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so now I'm gonna ask this question. I know you're interviewing, but let me ask this question to her. Did you look back?
I did.
Okay.
But were you looking? Were you looking the whole time, though?
I was looking the whole time.
Of course you're going to look. You said she was a beautiful young lady, right? So, you're going to appreciate the beauty.
Right. So I called her like 2 months later. You know what I mean? And
you called me the next day.
Put a heart on ice, huh? Put it on ice.
I put a heart on ice.
You called me the next day.
And the rest is history.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, bro. I mean, obviously, back in the early 2000s, whenever that happened until now, you guys are still going strong. Now, Tahesia, I'm going to give you a chance to give a little rebuttal if the story is not authentic or you don't believe it's authentic.
I give him, this one was the best one he's actually said. He was a little bit more accurate on this one. So I applaud him this time, because at first he would exaggerate this story to the most, like everything.
Well, we got to sulk sometimes because he put in the work to do it, and he felt that his strategy worked out to the utmost, and the stamp that he got, the stamp of approval, was to look back before you got on the elevator. He had it. I'm cashing in now, so that's something I'm a better appreciate. So you got to allow us to shine from time to time. When we work hard and go after something that we really want.
Most definitely. Now she's missing something. Shane, she's missing something.
The only thing that I'm missing is that he fell so in love. After a week, he told me he loved me.
Hey, that's how it happens, though, right?
Hey, hold on. She skipped something. What? You really gonna do this? You really gonna do this on this show? Hey, so that night, right?
You don't know that.
So that night, and she's a truthful person, so she'll tell the truth on this one. She came back downstairs to look for me to see if I was still downstairs. And that's when she knew. Yeah. Am I right or wrong? Did you go back downstairs and look?
Did you see me downstairs? Did you see me?
Oh my goodness, boy! I tell you, boy.
Whatever it takes, man. You know, you from the South, man. You know how we go about our business, man. You already knew how it went down. Tahesia, I'm sorry, but I got to side with Joey on this one. I'm pretty much believing that story because you know he's been clear and concise with how he's telling it, but you have kind of hesitated here and there. You kind of hesitated here and there, not really being sure about how things really went down.
I've heard this story in so many different ways throughout my lifetime.
I mean, but you said this is the best yet, though.
This one was the most accurate one, I must say. It was the most accurate one because the first meetup he would go in about the pulling shirt and doing all of that. He would go in about how I begged to sit at his table. He would go in about how I was only eating one bagel and one egg, like all kinds of crazy stuff.
You're trying to eat cute. She was trying to eat cute.
Trying to be cute. That's classic, though.
I never tried to eat cute. I ate because asking when he first came to my house, you knew that I ate. Like I just never ate a big meal before a track meet. Like that was just me. And then, so I'm eating this small meal and I'm seeing this dude like, did he just pick up his pancake and dip it in this crap? Like, I know your mama taught you better than this. You ate a public establishment.
Hey, when we don't know no better until we get somebody to upgrade us,
wait, that's a Texas thing for real?
I'm sure it is. I'm from Louisiana, so it's a little bit different.
Oh, you're from Louisiana. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Just think about it, how he said he never left Fort Worth in an area of South.
He's the first person. I'm sorry, but I haven't met another person to vouch that story yet with the pancakes.
Yes, you have. When you went to Texas, they say, yeah, that's the way you post. That's the way we eat it.
No. I haven't met that person yet.
Yeah, whatever.
Sometimes that's how it goes. Now you guys meet and start to hit it off, and
right.
You're dating, but you're competing at the professional level now. Tahesia, you're a pro. The distance and things of that nature, but obviously we're sitting here talking to y'all right now as a married couple. That probably has some strain on the relationship, but you work through it. Talk about Tahesia. I'm gonna start with you first. You know, we're talking about all of the European championships, the Caribbean championships. As a pro, you guys are doing your thing, sponsored by Reebok. Joey, you got Mercedes and Adidas. Tahesia, when you got that first nod to go to the Olympics, how did that feel when you knew you were going to your first Olympics? Just give me a brief summary of how that feeling was when you got the news.
So my first Olympics was in Beijing, 2008. So for me, it was like, okay, I know that I'm going to be there. Like, it's just to make the most of the entire situation. So when I went to the Olympics, I was like, when I go to a major championship, there's always two things that goes on in my head, where you're either focused on what people are thinking the games are going to be like, because the only games that I've been to, honestly, that I didn't have it's going to be bad is London Olympics. Like for Beijing Olympics, they always talked about, the weather is going to be bad, the smog, the air quality. Yeah. And it was like, they always focused on those things. For my first Olympics, I don't know if I necessarily was prepared for my first Olympics. It was almost like it was an experience for me. But the experience, it was so surreal because everything that you thought was going to happen didn't happen. Like the people, the atmosphere, the country itself, like the structures, when you expect something else in your head. Like I've traveled the world, but it's always where you go to this one country or you go to somewhere and people always think that it's less than the US or it's less than another place that you've been to. But then when you go over there, it's like, whoa, okay, this is nice. Like the hospitality is nice. I really enjoyed, which is bad for me to say, the shopping in China was amazing. Like it was great. The athletic portion is like everything is there. So you're in the village. You have the McDonald's, you have food, you have therapy, you have your apartment, you have pools, you have the track, you have everything at your exposure.
One-stop shop, right?
It's like a one-stop shop. Like, so it's like if you go to the Olympics and it's like, okay, you either think that you don't belong here or you like, oh man, I made it. Like everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, whether or not you're the champion, whether or not you're the fastest person, everybody is getting treated the same exact way. You might have a little bit more fans than the other, but you're not going to go into a facility and they treat you something different because you're considered an Olympian. So you go out there, you see people training, you pick up on different things that, okay, how can you elevate your game? Because at that point, I was still young. I was supposed to go to 2004 Olympics, but because I had my son, I missed out on that.
Yeah.
So now this Olympics, it was like, okay, you know what? I may not win this, but let me see what I can do. Let me see what stamp I can hold, because at the end of the day, this was our first female at the Olympics that's actually you're not just going. Like I didn't just say, they didn't just say that, you know what, you can go on the team because we need to fulfill a quota. Like I qualified and deserved to be there.
Yes,
it was just that, okay, even though I deserved to be there on a qualification standpoint, in terms of ability and what everybody else was running, I'm more of a realist when it comes to certain things. So I'm more realistic with what can happen or what can't happen. Some people hate me for it or like, why do you think like that? Because I feel like as athletes, even though we have these expectations or these dreams, these goals, in order for us to get there, we have to deal with reality. Because certain times on a large scale, luck plays out or certain things play out, but I don't feel like they play out if we're not prepared for it. So like you still have to put in a certain amount of work. You still have to get a certain amount of experience in order to be successful. Now there are some people who kind of skip those things and it comes like that. But then you see that when they get it, it's like they have to kind of go back to get back to where they were, because mentally, or that transition of success, they have to deal with that, like, or try to stay on top. So they get that pressure of, let me try to stay on top, versus when I went to the Olympics for that first time, it was like, okay, let me take this in. Let me see what this experience is like. Let me know what to expect. So when I come again, because in my head, I'm coming to 2012, like I'm qualifying again to go to the next one. So in my head, it's like 2012 was more of a realistic, like, terms of ability for me in terms of being successful in that aspect. And I treated the Beijing Olympics as more of an experience of, okay, how do I deal with a crowd that's like a stadium that's completely packed? How do I deal with having everything at my exposure? How do I dealing with a meet where you have every different sports that's within the same area? How do I deal with working with transportation or anything, like kind of basically structuring yourself? Because even though you're competing on different levels or you go to the world championships, it's never at that scale. So dealing with it on that scale allows you to, like, okay, let me process this, use it for later storage in terms of what I can use or what I can expect, so I can be successful in my later rounds.
For sure.
Or in my piece of an athlete. So but for me, Beijing Olympics was my best Olympics in terms of experience. Like China they went out of their way. The opening ceremony was phenomenal. Like they actually treated you like you were an athlete and a spectator at the same time. Because a lot of people go to the Olympics and they were like, oh, you was at the opening ceremony. Or a lot of times you're at this opening ceremony and you have no clue what's going on prior to when you walk out on the field, because you're walking through a tunnel and there's a line system. Yeah. And until you get there, you don't get that experience. With China, from the minute you sat down to the holding zone to when you walking out, they had television just stacked up everywhere. So it's like, oh, well, I'm actually seeing what everybody else is seeing on TV. Yeah. So like when I went to London, we didn't have that. So London was like, okay, well, you just walking out. Rio, the same thing. But for me, for China, with all the negative things that I heard that could possibly happen, they did such a great job of deading all of that. That is like, okay, that experience that you experienced was like phenomenal for me.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
My mom was able to be there for the first one.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, you know, from what I'm gathering, Beijing was that get your feet wet moment, experience it all, take it all in, and then London and Rio were, hey, I'm going to try to get one of these things to bring back home with me. Before I jump over to Joey and his experiences, answer this for me, Tahesia. All around, if you had to pick one Olympic Games that you've gone to, I know you spoke highly on Beijing, but just all around from one end of the spectrum to the next, which one would you pick? Rio, London, Beijing.
Honestly, I would want Beijing experience with Rio's fitness. Like Rio's fitness for me, because at that point I was under my husband / coach, and that was the most in shape and most prepared I've ever felt in like at any Olympic Games. So that was my where I was like, you know what? When you go to so many Olympics, that experience of going to the opening ceremony, it gets old because it's like now you're a professional and you are here to do some damage or get a medal or do these things. So in terms of fitness and how my season was going, how everything was going, even right up until like meet day, it was like you couldn't tell me nothing. Like I was ready to run. Like that was the best shape I felt like I was in my entire life. And then went out into the race and like midway, like probably around 60 meters, I felt my calf. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So it's like, but in terms of it's like, okay, well, your time is your time. If it's not supposed to happen, it's not supposed to happen. But I felt like the Rio Olympics is when I was like, okay, I'm going to retire after this. Yeah. But because I felt like, okay, I can retire on top and then move on or do something else. But because of how great my season was going and how it ended to the point where it's like, dang, that's not even how it was supposed to go down. Like, I felt like, wait, what just happened? Like I know that I'm ready to run. I know that I was like, what just happened? So it's like, you end up going another year and you go another year. So it was like that experience at Rio in terms of the dynamic with Joey, the team that we went down there with, how positive we were, how like in tune we were. It was like family oriented. I had BVI, but then he was with Haiti and everything like that. It was just, everything was so good. And it was like that one thing, just like, dang, what just happened? But I would want to do Rio over like if it was like 2 days before that meet and I was like, I had the same race that I had in practice, that run, like that's what I wanted. Like I was running 10.9s easy, like it wasn't nothing. And then you went out into the meet and it's like, wait, that just really happened.
See, he told you he loved you after a week, right? And he took care of you. He took care of you. You said you felt your best in Rio.
He did. No, I must say he did. That was like, people think you can't work with your partner, but at first it took me like two years to train with him, because as people, we think that, okay, well, there needs to be a separation between home and work. Yes. And for me, I had to say to myself, whatever he does, even though he's always had my best interest at heart, all his athletes, he's passionate about what he does. So I had to get into myself saying, you know what, I can't, not because you're coaching, I can initially train with you, because I had to say to myself, grow up a little bit and say, you know what, whatever issues we had at home, which not that it was going to be any, or we had issues like that, but whatever may come about, I can't allow it to affect my career as a track athlete. So until I decide myself, you know what, I have to separate the two in my mind, then I was like, okay, well, how does it look in a sense where my husband is a coach and I'm not training with him? So business-wise, family-wise, emotional-wise, I had to be like, you know what, I'm going to have to get over this being uncomfortable of thinking this relationship is going to affect our personal, or our personal is going to affect our business. And so, but you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to have to work through whatever we have to work through. Because if I have an issue with my other coach, I'm going to have to work through that too. So why can't I work through it with my husband? And ever since then, it's like, it's been amazing. And if I am mad at him, I had a great practice.
Definitely. I'm with you. And that's a great dynamic to have. Somebody that you can not only love, but put your trust in to help you become the best person you can be, not only on the track, but off the track. So like I said, he told you he loved you. He told you he was going to take care of you, and he did just that. So I'm definitely believing his story, how you guys met and all of that stuff, because the man kind of stuck to his word. I mean, what more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? So we're going to hop into that with you, Joey. I know you competed at the pro level for about, 6 to 8 years. You've been to a couple of Olympic trials, but unfortunately, as an athlete, it didn't work out for you. But upon retiring, and we spoke a little bit about this, you kind of quickly transitioned over into the coaching side of things, and was able to make 3 Olympics as a coach. Was that bittersweet for you, because you really wanted to be able to have that opportunity as an athlete, but it came to you as a coach? Talk about that a little bit, that Olympic experience, whether, you going to the trials and not maybe getting that opportunity to make the team, and then you transition to coaching, and now you find yourself at 3 Olympic Games as a coach.
Man, for me, it was a smooth transition. It's crazy because I didn't think that it was going to be a smooth transition. But it was a smooth transition because it goes back to me being a student, of the game. And I didn't want athletes to make the same mistakes that I made, coming up in the game, and not understanding, their capabilities. No, I didn't make it as an athlete, but this coaching has been amazing, because it wasn't bittersweet. It's been all sweet, because now I'm able to take everything that I learned from the circuit, from the business aspect to the physical aspect, and put it in these individuals. And it's just special when these individuals listen and they trust you, and they put it to, they execute what you're telling them to do. Yeah. So I've never once had the thought of, dang, that should have been me, or that could have been me, because of my passion for coaching, and I don't look at myself I never looked at myself as just a coach per se. I looked at myself as a mentor first and a coach second, because at the end of the day, when athletes get into these professional sports, the only thing they know is the professional sport. Yes. They don't know what comes with it. They don't know the political aspects of this game. They don't know, they only know, okay, I need to compete good. I need to compete great. I need to get a medal. They don't understand, what happens behind the scenes, what to look for, different things that they need to be doing outside of the sport. They don't know that. I'm able to shed that light on them because I've seen both sides. I've seen, I've been in the shoes that they're in, and I've also been in the shoes of the political aspect of it. Behind the scenes. I remember we was at Berlin, Germany for World Championships. That actually opened up my eyes a lot. She was underneath another coach, but I was, of course, I was there. I was already a coach, and just being on the political side and seeing what these athletes don't know, that drove me even harder to show the athlete what they don't know, what happens, what they have to look for, and how they have to carry themselves going into the field of play. It ain't just run fast. It's way more than that.
Yes.
It's way more than that. You have to watch what you say. You have to watch how you walk. You have to watch how you talk. You have to talk a certain way. You have to understand certain things from, let's take a new coach, right? A lot of times, and I was having this discussion the other day. I think Tahesia was on the phone when I was having it. Being a coach on this level is so different than just being a coach. The reason why,
I can relate.
It's so easy to coach. If you do your homework, it's so easy to coach an athlete at practice because you know the fundamentals, you know the basic stuff that they need to know. And 9 times out of 10 on this level, they already have a natural ability. The only thing that you can do is enhance the ability that they already have through hard work, dedication, and motivation, right? But when you're going to, if you're a baseball player, a World Series, when you're going to the Olympics as a track and field runner, when you're going to an NBA final, when you're going to the Super Bowl, that coach have to coach a totally different way. Because now you're on the highest level that there is in that particular sport. You can't carry yourself like you did at practice because that's a more lax state.
Yes.
So when I got to the Olympics for the first time as a coach, it was luckily it happened at a world championship before the Olympics. And it was an eye-opener. The reason why is because the athlete is thinking totally different than they are at a regular competition. Why? Because at a regular competition, everybody's not great.
Yeah.
They're good, but they're not great. Only less than 1% of athletes get the opportunity to qualify to the Olympic Games. Everybody's great. You understand?
For sure.
So you can't go into that situation as a coach lackadaisic. You understand? You can't go into that state comfortable. So from the time that you go through the village, the first thing you got to do is get your credential. That's nerve-wracking itself.
Yeah.
Just to get your credential is nerve-wracking. They can take an athlete from wanting to win to, I don't
want to be here.
You understand what I'm saying? And a coach have to know how to coach that, right? So you go from coaching the physical attributes of an athlete to being a psychologist before they even go to practice at the Olympic Games, right? So you get your credential. Now you have to deal with the athlete being around the world now. All different athletes. Now you're just not running against somebody from the United States. You're running against somebody from Africa. You're running against somebody from the Caribbean. Now everybody's in one circle in the village, right? Now you see everybody's doing different things. Now you tug of war with yourself. Have I been doing the right things?
Yeah.
This person is doing that. They're winning. Dang. That's like now you got to deal with as a coach, you have to say, you've been doing the right thing. Focus. Don't worry about what they're doing. That's their philosophy, right? So now you're dealing with the psychological aspect again. Now it gets tricky. You go to the meet, the first round. Now you have to deal with the announcer saying, okay, you got to report an hour in the call room before your competition. Let me tell you about the call room. The call room coach is not there.
Yeah, you by yourself.
You by yourself. No phones allowed. No radios allowed. So now you got to deal with, as a coach, you on the practice field still, you send your athlete in a call room. Now you got to worry about what's going on with the athlete from the time they go in the call room to the time it's time for them to set their blocks, because you're no longer hands-on with them no more.
Yeah.
A lot of races is lost in the call room. Am I right or wrong, Tahesia?
Yeah.
A lot of races is lost in the call room. A lot. You understand what I'm saying? So now as a coach, how do you coach that? How do you coach the psychological being of an athlete knowing that all of this is taking place, right? So now, and let me back up, as a coach, you also, now you have to go to technical meetings. Now you have to go to, scratch meetings. And those technical meetings, it gets crazy because if you do, then the athlete suffers. The athlete can't compete. If you forget to turn in a uniform and get it sanctioned, if you forget to get their bill number, if you forget to scratch them in and say, yes, this athlete is going to compete. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now it's tricky, so my experience on that level for the first time, it was an eye opener because I had to revamp myself as a coach because it's deeper than just being a coach at practice. Now you have to be a psychologist. You have to be a mentor. You have to be a coach. You have to make sure that this athlete is at their very best mentally and physically because you know them. Yes, they have psychologists there. They have sports psychologists there and things like that. But you see this athlete every single day. And then y'all both on a big stage together, right? Y'all both on a big stage together. Now you have to spend, like a lot of people just look at the Olympics and they just think that the athletes just got there. No, the athletes have been over there for 2 months. You understand what I'm saying? It was a time we was in London and I was with Cayman Islands in London, by the way. Not Haiti. I was with Haiti for Rio. But London, I was with Cayman Islands. I was the Cayman Island head coach. And I had to stay with Cayman Islands in a whole different city that she was in. So I was catching a train probably, 3 hours? Almost every day to go coach her and then had to be back and coach Cayman Island athletes. So I was going back and forth each day on the train in Europe. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, draining.
So an average coach is not able to handle that.
Yeah.
You understand? So, you got to deal with those things when you on a big stage like that. And then when the village opened, it was like a weight off my back. Now I didn't have to go 3 hours to go coach her and then go 3 hours back the same day to go coach them, the track at a different time. Now the village opened, everybody's in the village. Now we all collectively go to the track collectively and get that work in.
It's easier. That's crazy, man. I know the aspect of coaching. You may have to be that mentor. You may have to be that father figure or that mother figure, depending on you are and what type of coach you are. But what I didn't know, and you started saying some things, that was a foreign language to me, talking about the uniform, checking it in, doing this, doing that. You have to make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. Right. It's way more work and way more that goes into it. And don't let me forget this. We have a few more minutes left to chop it up, but it's something else that I want to transition into with you, Joey, when it comes to what you were doing at the Olympic level in track and field and bringing it into the boxing arena that we're going to jump into in a second. But I want to talk with Tahesia real quick about, you competed a few more years after Rio, and then you decided to hang up the spikes. What are you working on now, or what have you been doing since you decided to call it quits? Joey told me a little bit, but he didn't really go into specifics. But the fact that you were a trailblazer for your country, I know it led to some opportunities after the fact that you were done. So speak on that a little bit. What's some things, without giving away too much, what's some things you done dove into and looking forward to doing now that you're a retired track athlete?
Okay, well, in terms of the track and field aspect, I was selected to be the chef de mission of the BVI team for Tokyo 2020. And what that is basically the organizer, the liaison for the team. So I basically put together everything that you can think about when it comes to the Olympics in terms of organizing to ensure that the athletes have exactly what they want.
For a whole team.
For the whole team. So I went from athlete to on the executive level, it's two different things. And in actuality, I think Canada is one of the only other places that would allow a previous, they go about doing a previous athlete as one of the chef de mission, but their team is so big that they have more than one chef. Our team size is usually really small. So we're going to say, okay, we have six athletes, if that much sometimes. Most of the times we only have 2 athletes to go to the Olympic Games. Next year, I feel like we're going to have more athletes. 3 for sure right now, possibly 4, possibly 6 right now in terms of numbers that we can count, or people who just, come out the woodworks and do some good things next year to qualify for the games. But for the chef, it's a different aspect because, like I said, usually an athlete does not take that role because it's such a demanding responsibility.
A lot of business.
So everything that he was just basically talking about is things that I have to do. So I have to make sure that the opening ceremony gear is done. I have to make sure that our pin selection, I have to make sure that our athletes are registered. I have to make sure that the accommodation is okay. Like everything that you can think of that deals with the Olympic Games, I have to ensure that those things are put in place, because if they don't, I'm basically the one that's screwed up. But where I think that it's a great thing for me, because on a lot of scales, when you deal with such small countries, or when you deal with countries that, when you deal with certain countries, it's like you have people in certain positions that don't necessarily understand the athlete perspective. Yeah. And sometimes there's a gap between what the athlete really wants, what they need, or what they think they should provide. So for me, it's like, okay, it might be a hectic road. It might be a lot of work. But one thing that I am going to ensure, anything that the athletes feel or they have direct come in contact with, they're not going to feel that stress. So if it comes to the point where they need extra water, we're staying in a place that's uncomfortable, I'm going to ensure that there's furniture or order extra furniture for our apartment to make sure that we feel like we're in a home setting, because being in a foreign country for such a long period and being uncomfortable, it takes it's a lot of stress on the athlete. So the more comfortable an athlete is in that environment, the easier that time period goes by, and they're able to focus on what they want to do. At the same time, they can unwind versus feeling like uptight, like I'm in an aggravated position. So like I take a lot of the concerns of the athletes and I put it into what I feel like I'm going to provide for them, because at the end of the day, as the coaches, officials, yes, we need to be, there are certain things that needs to be met for us, but it's not going to be my priority. A lot of times certain officials focus on the officials and the staff, and then the athletes get, whatever they can get at that point. But I'm working from athletes' perspective and working my way down, or should I say working my way up?
Yeah, because you ain't wearing a track uniform no more. You probably got you got to wear a certain type of attire now, so it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
But it's like that opportunity was amazing. I'm working with kids. Like I like working with kids. I do coaching. I work with, in terms of fitness, where I'm also dealing with older people. Like I have like a big gap. I like working with the younger kids and I like working with the older adults. And the reason I like working with the older adults is because I feel like we're more health conscious, but we have a very large generation where once you get a certain age, you're either not paid attention to like you would if they're a certain age. So it's like you have people who have certain ailments, and it's so simple, but because they're a certain age, they don't get the same attention that they would get if you came in there at 20-something, 30-something, because they know that those people are going to be on you to make sure that they see results. And then I feel like they treat the geriatric population as if, you know what, I'm just going to give you this few exercise and, you could go about your way, versus like their quality of life is important. So in my sense, I like to work with older people to help improve their quality of life, so they can feel like they still mean something. Like it's a matter of, if you sit down every day as a young person and do nothing, you're going to have the same effect as you do as an old person. So my thing is, why tell older people to don't do certain things? Don't vacuum your house, don't sweep your floor, because their shoulder is hurting, versus, okay, well, let me strengthen the shoulder. Let me strengthen this other areas so she can do these certain things and feel like she's like, her life isn't about to be over. So for me, those things are the things that I'm interested in. I'm also doing like a nutrition course right now. And for me, now that I'm seeing the importance of nutrition, like I always ate okay, but understanding nutrition as an athlete, I feel like every athlete should at some point take a nutrition class, just the same way you study your how ways you can get better. Like, and it doesn't need to be where I go on the internet and you see certain things advertised, or, oh, this is a detox, this is such, like really go and take a nutrition course so you can understand your body, so you can better help yourself to be successful in your sport. Because a lot of times you got that talent, but there's so many other areas that's in deficit that you can't be able to materialize that talent, because you're either not eating poorly, you're not eating at the right time, you're not when you think you're consuming the right foods, you're really not, especially during the time period that you're doing. And I feel like for me, I wish that I took certain things a little bit more seriously.
I think we all do. We all do as athletes.
Because as athletes, I feel like one of my things now is I never pressure anybody to hear my information. Like I am that person where, and it sounds really bad. I know it does, but I was always that person where Joey just did a script of what you have to do at major championships. When I won my first international medal and I won the bronze medal in the 60 meter for world championships, all those things that my officials were supposed to do, I did those things on my own because I didn't feel like waiting on those persons. Yeah. So I checked myself in. I dealt with the uniform. I dealt with my credentials. I dealt with all those things. And as an athlete, it's like, you know what? I run, but I'm more than running. So it's like, for me, I like to see athletes who take initiative of learn what you're doing. Don't just do it. Like, for sure. It can't just be, I'm trying to run fast and then everything else gets put on the side.
But so like Joey said, that one track mind, just not having that one track mind. I get it.
So that's why I have a hard time with the in-between population, especially with and it's so crazy because my son, I am tough. Like, I'm no nonsense. Like, you're going to do this. And if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. Like, you're not getting the iPhone just because you're 16. You're not getting this. Like, you have to work for all these things. But then I feel like there's a generation where it's like, oh, well, let me see what I can get without doing anything for it. And it's like, I can't force you, because what I realized that when you force somebody at such a young age, they have to, everything can be taught. So you have to teach kids to want certain things, not expect everything, but just fight for what you want and put in that work. And if you fail at it, guess what? That's life. But when you fail at it, what are you going to do differently to say, you know what, how can I accomplish this goal the next try around?
Sure, and I'm with you.
Like my whole scheme of what I'm doing after college is like, I made a lot of mistakes. I was successful, but I can clearly see where my mistakes were talking to other athletes and realizing like, okay, well, don't do this. I'm telling you this because I know for a fact that if you put, and this is bad again, 100% of your
don't trip.
If you put your 100% attention in just track and field, then how does life work? How are you able to balance a kid, a husband, track, and everything else when you make other people just think that they only have to think about track or they only have to think about football or baseball? So then when this is all over, guess what? You are in a whirlwind because you don't know what to do now. Because you never trained your body to say, you know what? I am going to give, it's going to feel like I'm giving 100% into track. But at the same time, when my downtime isn't track, what am I doing with that other time? And it's not about taking away your focus of one thing versus the other. It's like nobody takes 24 hours a day to do anything. No. The only thing we do take 24 hours a day to do is we eat, not even eat, we breathe and our heart pumps.
For sure.
That's the only basic two things that we do 24 hours a day. Everything else we prioritize. So it's like, how is it that we can't say, even if it's like a 1% prioritizing, like even if we put 1% into something else to build ourselves up for something else, then I feel like as individuals, we become better. So it's like my goal, I feel like I'm the mentor of the, don't do what I did, but do the same thing I did at the same time. Like,
I see it. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I'll commend you and congratulate you on your new role with Team BVI. From hearing your story and things you've done is well deserved, and it seems like you're able to really spread your wings, as you mentioned, not only working with the youth but with the older generation and helping them learn how to take care of their bodies and work so that they can continue to be mobile, even well into their latter years of living. So, you've given us a lot of information on what you're doing or some of the things that you're planning to do since retiring from the sport. and obviously you have great support and a shoulder to lean on when you need that little advice from time to time, or to keep things into perspective and not get overwhelmed or feel like you need to do more than what you're doing already. When we're talking about your husband, Joey. So Joey, man, like I said, we got a few more minutes, but I want you to dive into, you spoke on the track side of things as a coach, and you've been able to have the opportunity to train some of the greatest athletes in different sports, most notably Deontay Wilder. He being former heavyweight champion, he's one of the best boxers in the world as we know it. A lot of the things that you did on the track side, I know a little bit about boxing. That same stuff goes into the boxing side. How were you able to transition or even go from training a track athlete to, if his career, if he stopped boxing today, he's probably one of the best to do it ever. He's in that top 10, top 15 of best ever. How do you transition? How did you make that move from the track to the boxing ring?
One of the things that I tell people all the time is doing other sports. Track and field, man, and it's a European sport. A lot of people sleep on track and field in the States. And you got to understand that track and field is the basis of all sports. Speed kills. You understand? Baseball, speed kills. Football, speed kills. Basketball, speed, agility, all that kills. You understand? So the only sport that track and field that I haven't seen, any basis of is swimming. You understand? Yeah. But the thing is, when you think, and it's not taking nothing away from the other sports, but I've never seen a track runner get faster playing football. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what? I gotta get faster. So let me play football to get faster. It's always the opposite. You understand what I'm saying? It's always the opposite. Even with basketball, you know what I mean? With baseball, my 60-yard, it got it. You know what I mean? So with Deontay, even with boxing, it was an easy transition. The reason why, I think I spoke about this with you, and as a former professional athlete, right? We feel as though that our story has been written. We feel like just because we're not competing no more, our book is closed, and it's not. You understand? We start living, actually. You're supposed to start living actually when you're done competing. It's new chapters to it. So, I got into coaching on the track and field level, and then I knew that it was still pages missing from my book. So I started training NFL or footballers. I started training Major League Baseball. So I was still writing my book, right? So me and Deontay, we've been best friends for a long time. He was one of my groomsmen in my wedding, right? So we already had the friendship. But at the end of the day, my book was still undone, right? And I knew where he was destined to be. He knew where I was destined to be. And we put that together and we made magic, right? So how did I get in the boxing aspect of it? I seen what boxing was lacking. It was lacking. This is not, what Deontay was lacking. It was what boxing as a whole was lacking, right? And it was lacking the sense of the science portion of speed, the science portion of conditioning, the science portion of strength. You understand? So when I started training Deontay Wilder, it just so happens that I already knew that Deontay was special. He already knew that he was special. This is way before the belt came. Yeah. Right? So I knew that I could bring something different to the table when it came to boxing. And that was a sense of, okay, these athletes want to be conditioned properly and they want to be strengthened properly. Why not come to an Olympic track and field coach to get speed, to get conditioning? That's what we do for a living. Yes. Is get people in shape and get people conditioned. You understand? My wife, she's 5'2", but my wife when she was competing, she could squat over 380 pounds. She could squat 400 pounds. She can power clean over 200. You understand what I'm saying? So her power is ridiculous. Why not come to me as a boxer, as a fighter, and get conditioned the proper way and get the strength that you need? I'm still writing my book. You understand? For sure. And the thing is, my book is not going to be done until, Lord knows when, because I still have a lot of work that it's still a lot of work to be done. How did I get into boxing? I got into boxing because they seen something in me special. You understand? They seen something in me that they knew that they've never seen before. And the thing is, I took full advantage of that door when it opens. See, us as former professional athletes, we always, when we retire, we were lost. We don't know, if you don't plan why you are in the sport, then guess what? You will be lost.
Of course.
And then as a professional athlete that's closing the door on their competition, now you in darkness. Now you don't know which way to go. Do you want a regular 9 to 5? But you got to understand that your experiences means a hell of a lot to the world. What you have done as a professional athlete, very few could do. You understand? So for me, it's bigger than sports. It's bigger than sports. It's about finding a median of self, looking in the mirror and being able to tell yourself, you know what, it's still work to do. I got to bring up these younger athletes and show them a different way because, not always work, but you have the experience to tell them that. And, I got with Deontay, me and his personalities are the same. He understands, I understand him. Yeah, most definitely. I'm not no yes man. He's not a yes man, and I'm very passionate about what I do. I didn't get into boxing saying I want to be one of the strength and conditioning coaches. I got into boxing to be the best strength and conditioning coach. And he got into boxing to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So, how can you stop that? I'm destined for greatness. He's destined for greatness. Two people that believe that they're destined for greatness, that's a bad combination right there. And bad as in good. You understand what I'm saying? So, that's what I wanted to give to the world. I wanted to be something more than just sports. I wanted to be somebody that when I'm gone, that people look at me as a legend. People see my legacy and say, you know what? If Joey created that, if he created that, I'm gonna try to duplicate it. But I want to do something that can't be duplicated. You understand? And any sport that I'm in and any sport that I'm coaching, whether if it's from the youth to the professional level, it's gonna be hard to fill those shoes because I'm gonna give something that's hard to give. And I coach with my heart and I coach with that passion. And that rubs off on the athletes. And now when they go to colleges and when they go wherever they're going, these coaches got some hard shoes to fill.
Oh yeah. I'm with you, man. And that balance of you doing what you did, when we think about growing up in Fort Worth, your career as a track athlete, now you became a coach, and diving into the different sports you mentioned, NBA, MLB, boxing, track and field as well, so on and so forth, man. It's crazy that you always think about being more than the coach. And I definitely pick up what you're putting down because that's the one thing that you stressed the entire time, being more than. And that prepared you for what you're doing now and the successes that you're having with every athlete or every sport that you're involved with. So I definitely have to commend you on that. And I just say this, man, relationship goals, I guess I can say, because you guys are both really passionate about what you're doing. You're able to bounce ideas and balance off of each other and continue to grow beyond what you did in the past. I got a few more minutes, so I got 5 more questions. Hopefully you guys okay. I got a cheat sheet. So I got a cheat sheet I'm going to use, so you might see me glancing down from time to time. But we're going to start with the lady, and then Joey, I'm going to let you follow up with her. But the first thing that come to mind, as quickly as possible as far as with the answers, I'm going to ask you, we're going to shoot it, and then we're going to shut it down. So favorite country or city that you've been to?
Austria.
Why Austria? Why was that the favorite place?
The scenery, like they had, they had the homes with a bunch of flowers. Like they really kept the mountains with the waterfalls falling down. It was just so peaceful. Like that was me. Like it was country as country as it could be.
but the scenery, I got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm a green person.
Now follow up with that, Joy. Your favorite city or country?
Mine. Dang, I got a couple of them, but if I can just close my eyes and throw one out, it's Monaco.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason why I did a pass through, and the reason why is because when I walked around Monaco, is exactly how I wanted to live. You know what I mean? It's so rich. Yeah. You know, I mean, a taxi is probably a Ferrari. You understand? So you see the the yachts. You see the how Monaco. I think Tahesia, you ran to Monaco, didn't you?
No, I've never been to Monaco. That's
okay. Yeah. So Monaco, man, because that's when I opened up my eyes to say, you know what, this is how I want to live. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes to try to live this way. And the people was nice. The people was nice, and they love track and field. So Monaco. That's
what's up, man. She was playing hard to get. That's why she didn't make that trip with you. She would have been there, but she was playing. She was playing around. You know what I mean? So for sure. So that leads me to the second question. Did you have any superstitions when you competed? Whether it was day before, certain things that you might have did that if you didn't do it, you didn't feel like you would do well?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't have any superstition. The only thing that I would try to avoid is like what Joe was talking, which if you know when you go into the car room, that effect of if you got out the plane and your quads are heavy, like that would be one of mine. It's like I didn't have anything where I know I had to do certain things to run. Okay. It's just that it was a feeling that I had where if I feel like my quads got real tight and all of a sudden what's going on?
You had to make sure you had to make sure your body was feeling fine.
Had to be on point. Yeah, I had to be on point in terms of it.
Gotcha. And before you answer that, Joey, man, and you talking, I know we've shared a lot. In a nutshell, you've kind of talked about your True Fit Athletics and how that was born and how it has continued to grow. Without even us really going into those specifics, I see the T-shirt. It continually reminds me of what you're doing. The TFA got to represent. Knowing that you led into that transition from an athlete into now what you're doing with True Fit Athletics and training these world-class athletes as well as future world-class athletes is great. And you had that plan moving forward. So I'm going to ask you, whether it's as a coach or as an athlete, did you have any superstitions?
Actually, music. I had to have my music. You know why? It's funny because I'm a hurdler.
Yeah.
And everything we do as a hurdler is a rhythm.
It's a rhythm, yeah.
It's a rhythm. Yeah. So if I was missing my headphones, I was like, dang, let me borrow your headphones. You know what I mean? But music is funny because like I used to always ask Tahesia, hey, you want when I was coaching her, I was like, you want to listen to my headphones? And she'd be like, no. I'm like, how is she warming up?
Yeah.
Like how is she going to this meet with nothing in her? You know, but she was able to do it. You know, not every athlete is the same, but me, I had to hear, because I'm that. You know what I mean? I had to hear something. You know, I had to hear my, my favorite tunes, man, and going into my competition because it just kept me on rhythm. It kept me on rhythm on everything I did from my warm up to the competition. I had to have that music.
For sure, man. That was one of the things for me, music. That was one of my superstitions. I got a whole slew of them. We need a whole nother episode to go through mine, but we're gonna move on to the next. We're gonna move on to the next question, and I'm gonna go back to you, Tahesia. Any rivals, or rival countries or rival athletes you had that you had throughout your career?
I had a few, but it was always peaceful. Like Chandra Stirrup, I had majority of my rivals I picked from my region. So it was like Debbie Ferguson, Chandra Stirrup, and those Kellyanne Baptiste, because I went through college with her into the professional sense. So those were my rivals. I didn't really have, like, people were like, those are my rivals because I felt like we were always there close, so we were always battle. LaShante Moore every now and again, depends on where I'm going. I tend to, if I had a series of track meets, because usually when you're on the circuit, the same set of people are technically going to the same set of meets. So if you go to like a Brazilian circuit, if you go to one meet, like almost the same set of girls are going. So it's like I would create rivals at a meet. Like I wouldn't hold any rivals after the meet, but it's like, okay, you going to the sport? Okay, you beat me the first one. Okay, I'm about to get her butt on the next one. So we'll literally be going back and forth throughout meets, but I didn't have like a rival where it's
friendly competition, bragging rights, so on and so forth. Think about those things. So what about you, Joey, man? I mean,
man, for me, it was kill everything. Now, eat or be eaten. Now, but for me, man, man, I was, that's how I was though. Like I was like, everybody's a rival to me. They step on that line with me.
Yeah.
But it's funny because one of my rivals, I actually coached to the Olympics, Antoine Hicks.
Oh yeah,
man.
Wow.
Yeah. We made magic together, man. We made magic together. When he chose me to be his coach. You know what I mean? And I mean, he was number one in the world. You know, he always stayed in the top 5 with me, and I coached him to his first Olympics, Rio Olympics.
That's what's
what I mean?
Man.
So man, good dude. But he was my rival. I'm telling you, we used to go to meets, and I used to be like, hey. But he's very talented.
Have it on your mind. I'm with you, man. That's what's up to do something like that, which leads me to we got 2 more questions. What's your favorite thing to do after a great day at the office? You know, you done put in work, you done did what you had to do, handled biz. What's one of your favorite things to do after something like that?
Go in the garden. I'm so bored.
Go from high intensity to
no. Yeah. Okay, I can have the hardest workout, the best workout, and before I even go, like I'll just go in the garden and start doing something. Like I don't know what it is.
That's decompressing.
Between that or cleaning, like I don't know what it is, but those 2 things, that's me. I'm just boring.
Everybody's different. You go from that high to being able to relax. But I know Joey ain't got nothing like that he's gonna say about his time after a nice day at the office. So I'm gonna let you shoot that out right now.
Hey, listen.
He's going to.
Hey, listen. Our life. Hey, let me tell you this, bro. Like hers is. She's not lying on it. It's going to, because you got to understand, like after a good day at the office, you know, I think that we do a great job of turning it off because you got a family. So you don't never want to mix the family and the,
work
the
side.
outside. Yeah, the sports side together. I don't even turn on ESPN in my house. I lie. I literally, I wake up in the morning and I turn it on the highlights. So when I go to practice, the coach, man, you see the Lakers, man? I'm like, man, I see, man, you see LeBron dunk. I only seen it on the highlight. I didn't see the whole game, So that became a habit. That I wake up in the morning and I turn on the highlights just in case one of the parents, bring up a conversation like, man, so you heard about they're thinking about the Super Bowl. I'm like, yeah, man, that's crazy, man. The game, Raiders, they did, But we really decompress, man. When we come home, the favorite thing that I do is I lay on the couch. And we don't even turn the TV hardly. I just lay on the couch and I just be on my phone or whatever, just scrolling just to decompress and just keeping my mind at peace. Because you got to understand, sometimes I'm at the track coaching athletes from 8 in the morning to 9 at night sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that whole day, I'm getting it in, man. So when I come home, I really, decompress or whatever. And
Stretch out. I feel
man, we don't do nothing off. Yeah, we don't do nothing off the wall. It's
Some
like
of us need that. Some of us need that part.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
We bored. Even with Deontay, after the fight, people think we party. They think that, we party, man, we homebodies, man. Like we chilling. After the fight, man, Deontay tell you, man, we go back to the hotel. Right before his fight that she came to, that I flew out to, she was like, this is all y'all, why are y'all so boring? Like, this is it. We having fun.
We need that woosah moment. We need to excel. Man. So I definitely get it, man. And I got one more for y'all. Your most memorable moment.
My most memorable moment. Oh, I could never answer this question. I have so many. My most memorable. Joey, go first. I can't and no matter how many times I've gotten this question, I could never answer it. That's so crazy.
So think about three. So think about 3 moments, and we're gonna let Joey answer it first, since you deferred to him. We're gonna let him go first, and then if you could think of 2 or 3, we'll hit that up, and then we'll shut things down. So Joey, if you want to take the floor for that, let me know your most memorable moment or 2.
My most memorable moment is when I said I do. You know what I'm saying?
I knew you was gonna do that.
And I just, okay, right? And you know what the thing about it is? I was just thinking that, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave it track related or professional. And I bet you any money. I bet you any money who says this. Now, if I say it, it don't even seem right. I knew it. I was like, dang, I shouldn't have did that. But go ahead. I'm going to let you.
You know what? No, real talk, though. No, real talk. My most memorable moment, it's not a moment for me per se, right? Honestly, honest to God, man. My most memorable moment is being a part of history with my wife. You know, because what she did, that was groundbreaking. You know, what she brought to her country, what she did in her whole career, I was actually a part of those chapters. You see what I'm saying?
For sure.
So for me, anytime it deals with history, you know, that, you know, especially what she's done for the sport and what she's done for her country, you know, I don't think, you know, I mean, it's like what she has done is second to none. And I was a part of that. So me just being a part of that and her inviting me into that, you know, with her, that was my most, you know, memorable moment, you know, and we still creating, you know, a legacy with each other, you know, dealing with business, you know, and we still, you know, standing strong and we still standing firm and still creating, you know, our book. You see what I'm saying? So for me, my most memorable moment was, you know, traveling the world with her, you know, and seeing everything, even our last Commonwealth Games in Australia. How many Commonwealth Games you been to, babe?
2.
You know, and that happens every 5 years.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Every 4 years. So just think about it, how long her career has been.
For sure.
You understand what I'm saying? So the thing is, man, just me being a part of that, you know, that's the most memorable thing for me, because it actually molded me into a better coach.
For sure. You know? Tahesia, you ready? Because I mean, I knew what the man was
going
to say.
Did he just answer for both of us, though?
But maybe so. Maybe, I don't know. You hesitated once again.
I did because it's so okay. He does a good job of, you know, condensing things, and it was almost like, you know what? When I get off the phone with you, this is gonna be our topic right here, because he's gonna be like, ooh, so why didn't you say blah 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 or whatever?
So
but
when you hear me,
okay, but anyway, so okay. How can I explain my most memorable moment? This is a hard question for me. Okay,
just hit me with one, and then we may be able to feed off of that.
My most memorable moment is almost similar. It's like I haven't had, in I guess my life experience, I haven't had a hard upbringing. I've always been supported, whether or not by my family, my mom, my grandparents, my husband, my son. So it's like I've been on this journey of life, and I see people's perspective of certain things, and I have such a different perspective of certain things because I was so loved. I was so supportive. Yeah. I was so, it was like everything that happened to me either happened to me for a reason, or somebody allowed it to happen did something to kind of excel that opportunity, whether or not it was from, my mom deciding to move me to Florida, for me taking advantage of the opportunities as a high school athlete, and then going about and, becoming a collegiate athlete. The mindset of, don't just think track, but think of a whole. So it's like everything in life is like my most memorable moments is for me is helping people accomplish their goals, because I feel like so many people have done that for me, whether or not it's my husband with his company. Like I've seen my husband grind from day one to now, and I've seen him put in thousands of work and reap nothing from it. And it's just so great to see him reap that benefit now, because I know he's deserving of it. And I know that his heart is pure, and I know that his passion is pure, and that whatever he gets, he put in so much work to help other people outside of himself, that it's like watching him grow is like a memorable moment for me. Like watching my son go get older and trying to establish, like, you know what, we're living in this world where everything is so materialized, everything is so selfish, everything is so entitled, that raising a son in this world where the world is so against you is like having him grounded in the fact that, you know what, there's principles to life, there's consequences to action, there's so many things that come out of what you do, how you present yourself, like being a mom. Like, okay, I want to be just as great of a mom that my mom was to me, to my son, and teaching him values and worth that, you know what, it may seem like the worst thing at the time, but in the long scheme, this is for you. Like, this is all to make your life better. So it's like my memorable moments is the moments where I'm helping people to like just to see a different light, or to see something that they didn't see in themselves. Like that's just for me.
I'm with you. That's perfect. That's great. Because in a nutshell, for me, what you're telling me, your most memorable moment is opportunity and an ability to see people or help people excel in life. So yes, of course, that's you hit the nail right on the head with that, and I can appreciate that.
Husband.
Of course, that goes without being said. That goes without being said. So, we're gonna wrap this thing up, and Tahesia, we're gonna be looking for you with Team BVI and the things that you're gonna be doing with them down the line. Of course, Joey, True Fit Athletics, you're a part of that family too, Tahesia. We'll be looking at you guys and what you're doing. I know you're doing a lot. So with True Fit, it's a family affair with the both of you. But where can we find out information about True Fit Athletics, man? Just spit that out for us real quick so people will know if they decide to dive into what you're doing.
Yeah, most definitely. You can follow my IG page. True Fit Athletics without the E's, TRU Fit Athletics. You can also go to my Facebook page. True Fit Athletics or Joey Scott. You can also go to my website, which is www.truefitathletics.com. And we got some good things going. We got some good things. Follow me, because I'm not scripted. I'm what you see is what you getting with True Fit. And the people that I deal with, I let it be known that they can be themselves. You know what I mean? True Fit is a family. It's a family affair. And when you go to my IG, what you see on my IG, that's exactly what you get when you meet me or talk to me, or that's what it is, man. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I'm uncut and raw.
For sure. We can all appreciate that. We know that coming into it, as opposed to you sell us a dream and then we come in and it's something totally different. So Tahesia, I'm gonna go over to you. I know you got a lot of things going, but do you have any websites or anything that people can find you on when it comes to what you're doing as far as helping people with opportunity and excelling in life?
I just have my Instagram page, Tahesia _Harrigan_Scott. On Facebook, I'm actually Harrigan-Scott STC camp, because we were doing this camp at one period. So my Facebook page has to do with my last name and a camp at the end of it. But I'm behind the scenes when it comes to True Fit Athletics. So I'm not that much on the social media. I need to do better. Like social media, me is like, I need to do better when it comes to social media, but I'm definitely behind the scenes on helping this man.
For sure, but if somebody can find Joey, then it's a good chance. If it's a female that needs some help mentally or whoever or whatever it may be, they find him, they find you. So that's the great thing about teamwork and the fact that you guys are a couple doing some of the same things. So I really appreciate y'all taking the time out. I know we went a little bit longer than we wanted to, but you can't put a time on greatness. You can't put a time on the information that you shared. even though track and field is not a league, it's a federation or organization or whatever. It's still the sport at the highest level. So we're gonna call it the league. But for this edition, the federation episode, couples edition, for me, this is the League Talk podcast, and we're out of here.
My man, bless you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.